Welcome to the Steelbirds podcast. Starring your hosts Corey King and Harry Brockington the fourth, aka Brock.
What's
It's
up?
good. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Out here
Yeah.
in LA for family stuff and
Hell yeah.
getting
The
ready
land. You back in the land?
to back in the land, bro. Getting ready for this draft coming up and ready to talk some Steelers,
Hell
Eagles.
yeah. Hell yeah. Well, shit. Let's get into it then. The first kind of news topic that was most recent, I guess, is the Eagles traded Hassan Reddick to the Jets. Great player for us. He is it's gonna be different. That's a huge, like, him, Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey being gone is huge. Like, those are all veterans, those are good impact players. So it's gonna be interesting to see. We're definitely getting younger, but are we better than we were last year? We'll see.
Right.
So they traded him to the Jets. It's a 3rd-round pick, and it can turn into a 2nd-round pick in 2026 if he plays. I think it's at 67% of the snaps and has 10 or more sacks, which he's had
okay.
He's had 4 seasons in a row with 10 plus sacks. So he should be able to do that still, because the Jets, that D line is going to eat.
Yeah, no, definitely. He has a lot of value to them for sure.
Yeah, and also, like, people I saw, like, it's a lot of mixed feelings on the trade from Eagles fans, because he's a great player, but also, like, he wanted a contract that they weren't willing to give him, and but at the same time, even though it's a 2026 3rd or 2nd-round pick, that should be a high pick, because in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers should be gone by then, and they're probably going to be terrible when that time comes. So that could be a high pick.
According to him, he's going to play 3 to 4 years. So according to him, he should be there. But we're thinking that.
Yeah. So and even if he is there, there's a chance they could struggle a little bit. So Hassan Reddick, we'll see how that goes. We basically traded for Bryce Huff and got a 3rd-round pick for Hassan Reddick, which is cool. We'll see how it goes.
How do you feel about Bryce?
I think he's a good player. It's just more like last year seemed like it was obviously his best year, but was it, like, because of the situation he was in with that D line, or is it because he's, like, ascending and this is who he's about to be, and we got him at the right time, and, like, he's entering his prime, or it's just like last year was a good year and we're in trouble because really, because
your guys' D line is good too. So in theory, he should either repeat what he did or be better. So it's not even like, I guess, like a Montez Sweat situation where he went to kind of a lesser team and he's like the guy on the line and he has to kind of carry it. It's like, he's coming to you guys and he's going to have a lot of help, especially interior wise. Hopefully Jordan Davis can get things going, and Jalen Carter should have another great year. So see what happens with that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, to your point, it's really, it's Bryce Huff, it's Brandon Graham, and it's Nolan Smith, and Brandon Graham, and Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat are gone after this year, so it's like, because they're both going to be free agents, and Brandon Graham, I think he said he's going to retire after this year. So
I did see that.
We need depth. We definitely need to get younger, but kind of worried about the edge position. I wasn't going into the offseason, but now it's like, oh man, we got rid of our best edge.
Shake-up.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. But that being said, the Eagles have drafted an edge rusher in every single draft since 2010 when Howie Roseman got there. Like, not necessarily in the first round, but at some point in the draft, they've always drafted an edge every draft. So I expect them to do the same. Probably not with the first pick, but probably one of our top picks. And then you guys signed the great Quez Watkins. Speed guy. He ranked 100th in receiving grade in 2023, and he was 112th in 2022 out of like around 150 receivers or so. So not great.
Yeah, a lot of Steelers fans were excited about that on Twitter, and I was kind of like, just basically because I know you and I've known how you've spoke about Quez.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, so I went and watched some film because we also have Van Jefferson, and so Steelers fans were kind of like, yeah, like all of our receivers are like 4.3 guys. You know, Calvin Austin runs a sub 4.3. George runs like sub 4.4. We have faster guys now. And I was just kind of like, well, Van Jefferson's coming off of kind of, not even kind of his worst season. He did get traded mid-season to Atlanta, so it could have just been, a lot was going on, but he didn't have the best season. And then when I looked into the film with Quez, man, it's just like a lot of the routes that he's running, it kind of just seems like he's going through the motions, or almost like when he knows he's not getting the ball, you can kind of tell he's not getting the ball because he's just running the route, just to
yeah,
make it seem like he's not running the route to make it really show that I could possibly get in the ball, and then to your point, he's supposed to be fast, but towards the end of the season, you didn't, at least the last 4 games that I watched, you don't really see him getting a lot of separation, and he should be as fast or faster than most corners that are guarding him, especially slot guys.
yeah.
So I don't know. I've kind of heard that he might not even make the roster. So
Wow.
that
Yeah,
that
I
is
mean,
that is to be
I wouldn't be
seen.
shocked.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Um, and then another thing in the news here. The hip drop tackle got banned. We were just talking about on the last podcast. They're calling it the swivel hip drop tackle to make it even more complicated and stupid, like as if it wasn't already a weird thing to talk about. And like
right.
referee, now they're calling it the swivel hip drop tackles. I guess there's different kinds. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I know how you feel about it, but uh, it's just crazy. And I was listening to the Ringer NFL show, and I believe Austin Gale or one of those guys said like the play that they kept showing on Twitter that was like, oh, this is good that they're getting rid of it, is like that one where Mark Andrews got hurt this year
Right.
on that
Right.
tackle. And in the on the podcast, they said that the NFL said that type of tackle, that example would not have been a flag. So we don't even know what the fuck we're talking about because everyone
Really.
thinks that Mark Andrews play is like textbook definition of a hip drop tackle. But according to the NFL, they're like, no, that wouldn't have gotten flagged. So it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
disaster this coming year with
Yeah.
that.
And it's just hopefully it's not impacting you know, any game. You don't want any call to impact any game, but especially like when it
Right,
comes down to the
right,
playoffs
yeah,
or trying to get into the playoffs. And I've
yeah,
heard, through some things through Twitter, some analysts saying that the whole point is to really make it a fine and that it's not going to even be called in games as much as people think. As much as people think it's going to be a controversy, that it's mainly going to be fine. And I don't even believe that. I'm not even going to be listening to that because it's obviously going to get called, and it
yeah,
might get called, egregiously. But even to that, finding the dudes is just as unfair because a lot of these dudes who are undrafted free agents who carved out a role for themselves, like a Jalen Warren who became, RB2 for a
right. Yeah,
team.
he's
They're
getting
not
fined his game check. I saw one time.
exactly
Yeah, that much. Yeah.
65,000 is that
What?
that's what his game checking. And so it's like, even if you're finding a dude who's making 18 million, like that's their hard earned money. And for a call that doesn't make any type of sense. So either way that they're trying to spin it, to me, it's just unfair, and it's not going to make a big difference. It's not going to be positive either way. And so hopefully at the end of the season, they can go back and say like, there has to be something done about it because there's not going to be any way around it. Anytime they see a heavier dude fall on someone,
Exactly.
or somebody's legs look awkward as they're getting
Yeah.
tackled, I feel like it's going to get called. So
That's exactly it. It's not even going to be a flag unless the offensive player like is laid out hurt. Then they're going to just throw that in there. Be like, oh
right,
yeah, that was a hip drop tackle. It's
there's going to be a lot of late. When you see
nonsense.
like it's delayed and all of a sudden they've thrown it, it's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
that. So
yeah. Then you see guys on Twitter like uh this Sam Monson is a guy who works for PFF. He's a I think he's from Ireland or Scotland, one of them, and he's talking about like, oh, rugby players can do it this way. Rugby players don't hip drop
I
tackle.
saw
It's like,
that.
yeah, it's like, bro, are you telling me NFL players can't tackle and only rugby players can? How come they're not in the league dominating? Like, it's not
Right.
that simple. It's not like
And
a
it's a
lack
different
of
sport.
skill. It's not a lack of technique. Yeah, exactly. Rugby isn't
Yeah.
about getting people on the ground. Like, you can tackle someone,
Right.
they can still throw the ball. I don't even know the fucking rules, but like the
Yeah.
fact that you're like making it seem like, oh, just learn how to tackle like rugby players is it's nonsense. It's not even the same game.
It's just a way to make it seem like, the NFL is always doing the right thing and like there's nothing wrong. And it's like, it's okay to challenge things that don't make
Especially the
sense.
NFL. Yeah, they stay fucking up.
Right. So it's like, I don't understand the
loyalty.
goal, the goal behind always trying to defend things that the NFL does, even to the point of trying to add yet another game, trying to play multiple. I heard there's going to be like 2 to 3 games on Christmas this year, and they're going to make,
Christmas is on a Wednesday and there's a game on
they're going to make them
play.
Why? They're going to make people play on Saturday. So it's like, why are you even doing it? And it's supposed to be, player safety, but that doesn't make any sense when you're doing stuff like that. And so they talk about, having these premier players that go out every year, and it's like you're helping that happen. So, I'm never going to defend something that doesn't make sense. And, it's not always trying to bash the NFL, but some of their decisions are questionable, and it's fine for us to, have conversations and challenge that.
Yeah. Facts. And then the last bit of news here is the NFL passed the new kickoff rule. So it's going to be similar to the XFL rule. I think it's going to be a little different because I think the XFL only had like one returner back there, and then NFL
can have two. NFL
it's going to be two. Yeah, and there's different like zones for touchbacks. So like if it hits the target zone and it rolls out of bounds, it goes to like the 20. But if it like goes out the back of the end zone, it goes to the 35. So kickers are never going to kick it out the end zone anymore. Right. Fair catches aren't allowed. So it's gonna be exciting, man. Like 21.7% of kickoffs were returned in 2023, and in the XFL is 93%, and that's gonna be. And I feel like in the XFL there was more room for like trickery, and it's gonna be fun to see. Like, all right, we got these special team coaches in the NFL. Let's see them cook up some shit. Like we never really get to see. Like let's see what they're made of. It's gonna be like there might be like offensive linemen out there doing like counter gap schemes. Like,
we don't know what is gonna happen.
And so, funny enough, I think that rule got passed maybe a few hours later. You guys, Steelers signed Cordell Patterson, who has the most kickoff return touchdowns in NFL history. So
Steelers
definitely going to be.
They acted like we got Patrick Mahomes or something. It was I was like, that's cool and everything, but he also is 33 years old, so not to knock dudes, or I know players don't get a fair shake when they're entering their 30s and stuff like that, but there's just not, and most guys, there's not much left in the tank. So it's a 2-year deal. We'll see if he can, he's definitely not running sub 4.4 or high 4.3s whenever he was doing that, but if he can help with the field placement, then I'm all for it. But the excitement of signing him was like we just did the greatest thing ever. So I was like, we gotta kind of chill on that.
Don't let Arthur Smith use him as your main piece on offense like he did in Atlanta.
A lot of people were saying, he could easily be wide receiver 4. No, calm down. Let's get a wide receiver 2 first to work with GP with George, and then we'll see if he can do some gadget stuff. I'd be all for that, but having him out there every down that's a different story. But I think we're just saying challenging certain things that the NFL does. That is something that I definitely agree with, because we've talked about it, how that was taking away from certain guys making a living. Some guys are going to be a wide receiver 5, an RB 5-4 on depth charts, but if they have the talent to return, that's how they're going to make it on these rosters. And that was just kind of becoming obsolete. It was going to be taken out of the game. And so now you're going to see guys being able to do that, which I feel like is fair. A lot of people are very traditional and upset that, the kickoffs are going to be changed, but it's like, it wasn't even the kickoffs that you older folk are used to anyways. It wasn't,
Right.
oh
Yeah. It was.
five, oh six when everybody's returning. It wasn't that
Yeah.
anymore. What you
Yeah.
just
It
said it,
wasn't.
21% was
Yeah.
being returned. So it's like
Yeah.
now, we're going to see a different side of it. And I'm excited. I feel like it's going to be, a kickstart. It's going to be a lot of, this play was the reason why this team got into the play. It's going to be stuff like that because,
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of these special team dudes are probably going to try to cook up some things to to give people an edge. And
Yeah.
so, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. I was looking into it. It was like 80% of kickoff returns. 80% of kickoffs were returned in 2010, but last year was only 21%. So it's like
Right.
that's a major drop off. It's boring now. Kickoffs don't matter, like
At all.
and yeah. So I'm excited for that change. And as we were talking, badly about the NFL in terms of player safety, this is something that is actually safe for the players because
Exactly.
they did a study in like overall in college and NFL football, like kickoffs accounted for 6% of all plays in a football game, but they accounted for 21% of concussions. And in the XFL with that kickoff play that they had, it was one, like we said, 93% of kickoffs were returned, but also there were 0 concussions on that play. So
that's great. So what's the
sign
hate
me
about
up.
that?
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing was just the last bit of news was the trade deadline was pushed a week back, so it's week 9 now, which is great.
Part in that,
yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah. So
Steelers pushed for that. So
yeah, that's some good stuff right there.
Which I mean, if the season had already gotten pushed, because I think obviously when it was week 8. That was when seasons were 15 games, I believe, 15 or 16 games. And
probably,
so
yeah.
Being pushed one more week to 17, and then they're trying to, push it again. We don't know if that's going to get passed. It only makes sense to have other things be kind of pushed up if we're pushing things back. So, it's only 1 week, but it makes a lot of sense to at least to make it fair for teams to do that if the season's going to be, slightly longer.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, that's all I got for this segment. Yeah, you want to transition into the draft prospects?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, bro. All right. You wanna kick it off? How we're gonna go about this? What's our process here? We want to do
yeah. Okay. So what we're gonna
players
do
that we think our teams are gonna look into and draft, maybe.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So obviously draft day's coming up here soon, April 25th. First round. A lot of trades have been talked about. We see the Vikings acquiring more picks to try to get their possible QB of the future. That's probably looking like a thing. So first thing I'll say is a lot of teams that were fans of teams that feel like you might have that 12th, 13th pick. You might not be picking at 12 or 13 because there is a lot of trade up talk. So whatever pick that you might have in those first few rounds might not even be the pick, but we're just going to try to guesstimate on what our teams are gonna choose in that pick if they don't trade up. So for the Steelers, we pick at 20. We have a few holes, a few more holes that we did before free agency started. We traded away Deontay Johnson. We talked about that. So we actually have a wide receiver hole now. We released our starting center, so we don't have a center. We have Broderick Jones, our first round pick from last year, who was a left tackle, got moved to right tackle. Our left tackle isn't the strongest tackle. He gave up, 6-7 sacks last season. Had a lot of trouble in pass protection. So left tackle is a glaring need. We could take another slot, but me personally, I want someone who's going to be snapping the ball to either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. That's where I would want the Steelers to go first. So there's a few guys that would fit, schematically perfect for the Steelers' new offense with Arthur Smith. The first guy is Jackson Power Johnson from Oregon. Dude is he's a unit to say. He's 6'3", 340, big guy. But he's very nimble, very smooth. He's a first center on most people's draft boards. I know a lot of other people like Zach Frazier as well from West Virginia. He's another high prospect. But if I had to choose who the Steelers would take at 20, it's got to be center. I don't believe that we're going to trade for one. There's not much out there. A lot of the centers have gotten signed. There is one center that you would say would be like the cream of the crop up there still, and that's Connor Williams. He's center for or was a center for the Dolphins, free agent. But he is coming off of an ACL injury. Younger guy, but there's a lot of rumors around that are saying that he might retire. He hasn't.
Right, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been the best recovery process for him. So he's probably not going to sign with the team if he doesn't choose to retire, until probably after the draft. And we can't afford to be banking on that. So I don't think we're going to be able to trade for one or anything like that. So I would say with the first pick, probably going to go center, and it should be Jackson Power Johnson from Oregon if he's still there.
Yeah. He's definitely a top prospect. He's 24th on PFF's big board. And to people who don't really know, like a big board, NFL teams basically have a big board of like every player in the draft, and they like rank them accordingly. And it's like whoever you think the very best player is in the draft, he's first on their board. And as players get drafted, you're taking dudes off your board, or if someone has injury concerns or off the field concerns, you fucking take them off your board. So
right.
Everyone has like their own big boards. So PFF's big board, he's 24th. So for a center, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Jackson Frazier, I think, is 33rd on there. So yeah, two good players. And his PFF like pass block grade in true pass sets. So like not screens, not plays that are like throwaways or like stuff like that. Like a true pass set, he has like basically the highest grade you can get, which it's like a 99.9. So just a really good player. He can run block, everything you want a center to be. That's what you want. So I think that's a perfect pick for y'all, especially at that part of the draft. The 20s. That's a good time to take a center.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially for a day one starter.
Too. Yeah. And I mean, I even saw people saying the Eagles might, if he's there, they might take him at 22. And so
guys, I saw Seahawks too. They kind of need a center, so I'm and they picked before us, so I'm kind of nervous about that too. So
right? Yeah, the Seahawks are at what 16?
16.
So,
yeah.
Because for the Eagles right now, there really isn't any clarity on who's going to be the right guard. Like people are just assuming Cam Jurgens is going to move to center. So the right guard position is open, but the Eagles haven't said anything about it. And Tyler Steen, I guess, can return. But yeah, it's really unclear. So I don't know if that's like a smokescreen. Maybe the Eagles aren't trying to talk about center because they're going to try and draft Jackson Powers or someone.
This is smokescreen, season right now.
Yeah,
we're doing that right now too. So with quarterback, we're going to have Michael Penix Jr. come in, and from what we've already done at a QB standpoint, we're not, we're definitely not taking a quarterback in the first round. And we already have 3 quarterbacks on the roster now. We did sign Kyle Allen from the Bills, free agent, as our QB3. So now we do have a full room. And if we were to take quarterback, it probably would be an undrafted free agent. So yeah, this is definitely smokescreen season when certain teams are going to kind of act like they're interested in some dude so that they can hide their true intention, so they don't kind of lose out on a prospect. So it'll be interesting to see how many people actually take the player that they're having on these visits when you get closer to the draft.
Yeah, definitely. So then in terms of like the Eagles, coming into the draft season or the off season, I really thought that like corner was going to be a position that they would try and draft early and really make a priority. But with these moves on the defensive line, and with the, like I said, with the uncertainty at offensive line, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Eagles drafted an offensive lineman with their first pick.
Okay.
And one of the players that I am seeing a lot of, and has the versatility to be a tackle and a guard, is Troy Fontenot from Washington.
From Washington, yep.
Yeah, so 6'4", 317, big dude, but not big enough really to be a tackle in the league. So he's probably someone who's going to have to move to guard, which, the Eagles like. And, people were, they kept showing like clips of Jeff Stoutland is the Eagles offensive line coach, and he runs the drills at the combine. He runs the O-line drills for the combine.
Right.
And they said like when Troy Fontenot was doing the drills, they kept showing him, and he was like, "Oh wow, like so impressed."
Right.
So if he likes somebody, that's a good indicator. The Eagles are definitely gonna look into him because he's considered one of the best O-line coaches, if not the best in the league. So
him and Bill Callahan, I think.
Yeah,
so another legendary offensive lineman coach.
Yeah, so in Troy Fontenot's true pass block grade, his pass blocking grade in true pass sets is a 94. So that's elite pass block grade. 77 in run grade, which isn't amazing, but he was also playing tackle. So if he comes into the league and is a guard for us and under Jeff Stoutland, I have no concerns with him. He has the power, he has the athleticism, he's in the like 90th percentile of athleticism in terms of like vertical broad. He had like a 5.0 40, which is fast for someone who's 317 pounds. So I'm not going to be too worried if that's the direction we go there.
And a lot of people like him at tackle still. I know Daniel Jeremiah was saying don't have people thinking, to pigeonhole him into a guard position because he can't play tackle. They don't like that his arms are a little bit shorter. You like the, tackle's arms to be longer, obviously, for, their technique purposes and punching and stuff like that. But, if, like you're saying, if Daniel Jeremiah is liking a dude and he's saying that he can play a position, I'm not gonna go against that.
Exactly. So
either way,
and that's the perfect type of player to draft for us, because it's like we have a need at right guard right now, but also like Lane Johnson is getting older. He one injury, he could be out. So that's a player, if he has the versatility to play tackle and guard, then sign me up. We'll find someone for guard during the season if he's there and he needs to go to tackle or whatever. And the Eagles haven't drafted a non-lineman since 2016 when they drafted Carson Wentz second overall in the first round. So they've always drafted a lineman in the first round, basically since then, on top of other things. But you wanna get into your next prospect?
Yeah. And to finish that off, another guy, Graham Barton from Duke. He's another guy that can play. I forgot about him in mentioning prospects. He can play everywhere along the offensive line. He played center his freshman year at Duke. He was at tackle last year, but they're saying he could play guard as well. The Steelers had our offensive coach go to his pro day, and so he could be a center there at 20 as well. If Jackson Powers Johnson is taken by you guys or the Seahawks or another team, so that's another guy that has a lot of versatility. But a second choice outside of center would be a tackle. What you were saying at the beginning of yours is like you kind of thought that Eagles would be taking a corner early, and that's kind of what I believe the Steelers would be doing, because all off season up to this point, a lot of people have been talking about wanting to get that running mate opposite of Joey Porter Jr.
Right.
And so when we still had Deontay Johnson and hadn't released our center, that was kind of what I was thinking, that we would possibly take a right tackle or a corner first, but that's kind of been pushed down, the list, especially because we did acquire Dante Jackson. And so I would say right tackle would be a need for us. Omar Khan has said that, Broderick was drafted to be a left tackle, but when he's going to get moved back there is to, remain to be seen. And I feel if you're not going to do it this season, just keep him at right tackle, because there's no point in, and the Steelers do a lot of that where you're having offensive linemen play out of position. And for a guy that's a stud and is athletic like Broderick, I feel like, you got to play him at his strong point. And so I feel like this is the perfect, time to move him back to left tackle. Take J.C. Latham. He's a guy out of Bama. I know you probably know a lot more about his pass protection and run.
Yeah, I'll pull that up in a
blocking.
sec.
But this is a dude that I think they said gave up 1 sack. Huge guy. And the most important thing I know for Steelers offensive linemen is like the athleticism and the violence in the run game. And we're going to be running the ball a lot, obviously, in this new offense with Arthur Smith. And I really feel like he's a great fit. Kind of a similar guy to Broderick, where, he has some pass blocking issues, but he's very strong in the run game. And so for Najee and for Jalen, that's huge. So he's definitely a prospect out there that just fits the scheme. And but another guy would be Amarius Mims. He's out of Georgia, so Broderick and him are very they're very close. He kind of talked about at the combine how Broderick has kind of been telling him what to expect from interviews and kind of what to expect coming into your rookie season. And so it's always great when you have guys who played with each other in college, and then they can come in and, kind of have that camaraderie already. But yeah, Amarius, he only started 8 games. So a lot of people are kind of, worry about him. He can be kind of raw, but for those games he started, he looked like he was a guy that has been at that position for 3 years already. Like, he started as a true freshman, didn't have a lot of issues. Dude is, 6'7", he's huge. And he doesn't have the typical, lineman build. He's kind of like leaner than most linemen. And so I know,
6'8", 340. So
6'8", right. Yeah. Huge dude. And so Mike T loves guys like that. So that would be another, prospect if JC Latham doesn't fall. So those 2 guys are definitely on my radar that I would love for the Steelers to take. And I know they've showed already a lot of interest in Amarius. So see what happens there.
Yeah, Amarius Mims. PFF has grades for things that are, there's like certain stats that are considered like stable metrics. So it's like if someone usually grades well in these things, they're going to do well in the NFL. They've kind of like been sticky to good production over the years. So that's why I keep bringing up true pass sets, because that's one of the things for linemen. Right. If you're good at pass blocking when you need to be good at pass blocking, that's usually a good sign. You're gonna be a good player. So yeah, Amarius Mims, his pass block grade in true pass sets is 82, which is really good. Run block grade in man or gap schemes is 84. Run block grade in zone is 85, and then like his negatively graded run blocking plays in general is 84. So like if you have a 90 or above in PFF grades, you're like elite. So if you're in the mid 80s, you're a very good player, and he's like mid 80s in every single like stable metric. So he's going to be
starting 8 games. So that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of height, weight, arm length, hand size, it's all in like the 90th percentile of linemen. So that's a good sign. And he ran a 5.0740, it says here. So that's also up there. That's like an 80th percentile for a tackle. So good player, good athlete.
Definitely both those guys. Either one of them would be great scheme fit for Steelers. So
yeah, JC Latham, those stable metrics, he has a 99 pass block grade in true pass sets, a 93 run block grade in man and gap schemes, a 98 run block grade in zone. And, he is a little bit more negatively graded in run blocking plays, but if you're an elite pass blocker and run blocker in general, like that's fine. You can take on some more negative plays if you're having those elite grades. So
Right.
yeah.
Definitely a versatile dude. I saw Mel Kiper Jr. Had him um, possibly going in the top 10, maybe even top 5 if Chargers um, allow that pick to go to somebody else. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh running the ball wants to bring that same tenacity to the NFL, so that would be a guy that would fit in their scheme perfectly. But yeah, dude, 6'6", 360, I believe. And he even came out and tweeted and said, if teams, he's not just a right tackle. If teams wanted him or needed him to play left, that he'll even work out and show that he can do that. So even showing and being confident that he has that versatility, as we're talking about with linemen, playing anywhere on the line, but being able to play either tackle position is huge. So that obviously, rises his draft stock. And, I don't know if he'll be there at 20 for the Steelers, but if he happens to fall, I'd be extremely happy with that choice.
Yeah. He moves like a player who's like 40 pounds lighter than he actually is.
What he
like
is.
he's cold. Yeah.
Very light on his feet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I'll get into the next Eagles prospect here. Now, like I said earlier, I feel like as we're getting closer to the draft, it's more likely that the Eagles are gonna draft some sort of lineman, either O line or D line. But I was still hoping and looking into some corners, and a corner that I honestly think would be a good fit for the Eagles is Cooper DeJean, the corner out of
Iowa.
Yeah. Super athlete, like they show his like high school highlight tape from basketball. He's dunking on dudes, really cold, great hips, like, a very like smart player too. You always say that about white players, like they're always smart, intelligent, coach's son. They always get those traits, but he actually is a smart player. You can see it on the field. You can see him in that Iowa defense that I can't stand. He's always out there like communicating and making great plays. Very, very smart player. And the only concern you would have with him is that he just hasn't played a lot of press. He hasn't played a lot of press, man. Less than 25% of his plays have been in press, but based on like his profile and like his athleticism, like that's a player you want, especially on a defense like the Eagles, where we have a slot hole, we have a safety hole, we have old ass corners. Like this is a player that just get him on the field and give the boy a chance to make some plays, because we need it bad. So I like him a lot, and like even though he hasn't played press, like you watch him on run plays, he's trying to fuck dudes up. He's like trying to get off blocks and make a play in the run game, which you like to see.
He's very, very aggressive.
Yeah, so I'm not concerned about him, being able to press. I think he can play in basically any scheme and be a great player. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's not even there when it's time for the Eagles to draft, but I would be kind of upset if we let him slide for when it's such a big need for us.
It's definitely a possibility for him to slide, especially because he's coming out off that injury. A lot of people are kind of concerned with that. He's supposed to work out. I saw 2 weeks before the draft, so that's kind of where people will kind of see where he's at. Don't wish anything negative on him, but maybe if he's not really looking up to speed, that helps you guys with that. And then to your point with the press, I know I saw Field Yates saying that him being in a cover 3 scheme defense would be the best for him, because he doesn't really play man as well, and that's why some people think he should be a safety. But depending on the scheme fit, and he's playing a lot of zone, he's going to eat, because that's what he does very well. His ball skills, his anticipation is there, and so on the plays that he has to play press, I'm sure you guys will just have safety over the top. He'll have help and stuff like that. So there's things that you can work around that. But very, very solid player, very athletic guy.
It'll be a lot of in the Vic Fangio scheme. It'll be a lot of like too high like shells that will like it'll be a lot of cover 2, cover 3. It'll start in a too high shell, and then a safety will come down and be cover 3, cover 2. So
help.
Yeah, and looking at the the stable metrics for corner, there's a little more than offensive lineman, but he's elite at all of them. His coverage grade at outside corner is 97. Coverage grade at slot corner is 100. Coverage grade in single coverage is 94. Coverage grade versus a clean pocket is 97. His coverage grade when the time to throw is over 3 seconds is 96. And then his forced incompletion percentage is like a 74, which isn't like amazing, but it's definitely above average. But all the other stable metrics for a corner, according to PFF, are in the elite percentile. So
right, yeah,
that's all you can really ask for from a corner, And I guess the only other concern too is that he is white, and there hasn't been a white corner in the NFL since a starting white corner in the NFL since 2003 or something. So
right,
he would definitely break the trend there if he's able to just come into the league and be a corner, because you have
It's
to
like
be
the Christian McCaffrey thing. Like,
you got to be a super athlete and cold to
right.
be
Yeah.
a player like that. So
And he's the best running back in the league right now. I don't think anyone would have
facts.
anybody over him right now. So that's the crazy part about that as well. So, Duke can definitely do it. It's just like, is he going to go to the right, scheme fit, and then is he healthy? That's the most important thing. And if he's healthy and he goes to the right scheme, I feel like I don't have any issues with him from looking at his tape. So, great athlete.
And the last time the Eagles drafted a corner in the first round was 2002 when they drafted Lito Shepherd. So, I think it's time.
Right.
Maybe, but also, maybe the Eagles think like corner is just a hard position to evaluate. They'd rather trade for a young guy who's already established in the league or something versus drafting one. Maybe
every team has their own way they go about choosing guys.
Yeah, their philosophy is what their philosophy is. So, I won't be too upset, but that's a player I like a lot.
Okay. Definitely.
Yeah. But I think we'll hold off on doing more prospects for next time. We got a lot of time left until the draft, and our team still might make some free agency moves. There's still some players out there, so a need that we have may not be as big of a concern in next week
next
or
time
something.
we record. So
but if we wanted to, if you're ready, we can transition into our favorite segment. What grinds our gears.
Right. Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's get it. All right. You wanna start us off?
Yeah, man. It's just gonna be more of what it was last week, and that's just the hip drop tackle.
Yeah.
It's just what we were talking about earlier as well. They're trying to make it seem as if like it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. It's not going to be called as much on the field, and it's really just going to be fines for players. And it's just like I'm just very confused when they talk about talking to the players on what they want and what's best for them. And I think you even you might have tweeted or retweeted something about this on Twitter. They asked them what they prefer as a field that they would play on, and obviously it's grass. Nope, sorry. And then it's like, what do you guys think of this tackle? You have offensive guys coming out saying it's fine, because at this point, like, how are they supposed to tackle it? Yeah, okay. So, anyways, it's like, what is even the point of asking players, what they think is best?
Yeah,
and then they'll use it's the player safety. Well, what about the defensive players? Because they're basically going to have to learn a whole different way on how to tackle, and that may result in them getting injured, but also the new way that's going to be taught could end up still making the offensive players get hurt. So then it's like, then are we going to ban that way too? Is it going to just keep going until like everyone is starting to say it's just going to be flagged? Because now if you look at it, it's like, are they going to gator roll guys? And if you're doing that, there's a whole plethora of ways on how you could tear ligaments in your knee, anything when you have a bigger guy twisting you like that. And so I don't understand where their vision for it is going, and I don't understand they have this like calmness about it, like everything's going to be fine. It's like, no, it's not, because we've already seen a lot of the things that you've changed for the quarterback and how a guy could be making a textbook tackle to sack the quarterback, and you're still calling the flag. It's still going to be roughing the passer. So it's
Yeah,
like, are
exactly.
we supposed to trust that this is going to be any different? Because I'm
Right.
not trusting that.
These are the
So
same refs that made those calls on those roughing the passers. They're supposed to make the same calls on
right,
this swivel hip drop tackle. You want to call it that
something
bullshit?
that's happening that fast in the moment,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, we can say it because the players can't say it. We can talk bad about the ref. So
Right.
I'm gonna do it here.
Yeah.
When the game comes down to the wire and everything's on the line, that is where they do their worst work. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And I
Yeah.
know announcers like to say, the refs are doing a really good job. With Tony Romo loves saying that, but it's like, are they? And are you just saying that just because refs get it back? I don't think we should be protecting people who are just they don't deserve that. They should be doing better. If everyone is working hard throughout the season, there's so many people throughout an organization that make a team tick. We don't hear about a lot of the people that help the Chiefs be the Chiefs. Well, the refs should be a part of all that too, and they have to do their part. And it's just, you see time and time again, the calls are just being called and nothing's being done. You can't review it. So I would
Right.
say, even if we're gonna have these things change, why can't there be reviews, and why can't things be overturned if the refs got it wrong? And then I'll say lastly, I would say there needs to be, and I know we've had a private conversation about this, about repercussions for refs, and I know they don't want to make it seem like the league is rigged and those
Right.
type of
Yeah.
things if refs have consequences. But I think it's time, man. I think it's time to have fines for refs. You don't have to. I know it takes a long time. It's a long process to become a ref. So firing them outright is not the way to go,
Yeah.
obviously. But
Yeah.
I would say the two huge things would just be full time, and we've talked about that too. Have them be full time.
Yeah. As much money as the fucking NFL makes, you can't have full-time
You can't have full time
employees.
refs. That would be the number one thing that would reassure people, is for them to be full time, and then also just, if there's egregious calls and there's calls that have been called back or it's been looked at, first of all, don't have it be after the fact, the game's already done, where it decided the game. Have it be done then. And if it's that bad of a call where it's like, we can see that the ref was looking at it and it's just blatant that it was wrong, fine them. Because like we talked about with the undrafted free agents, the ref's not making that much money. So I'm pretty sure the next time around, they're going to want to get that call right, because
Yeah.
the little money that is being made is going to be taken away. And that's only going to make the game better. There's nothing that really could be negative about that. And the fans would appreciate that, because it's just basically holding someone accountable for their actions. And there's nothing wrong with that. So
Yeah, I mean, you
that's
do it
that's
for
my
you do it for the players. Why not do it for the refs? They make
right.
these game-changing calls that affect so many lives, and then they just run off into their little holes, and we don't see them again. It's like,
Right.
I need these niggas to pay.
Right. So it's like, man, that's my thing on that. And
Yeah,
hopefully
no, I
they
feel
just
you.
do right by the players and do right by the league.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Especially, like you were saying with the injury concern too. It's like you saw it when they changed the roughing the passer rule, where it's like you can't put your body weight into the quarterback when you're sacking them. That could be a roughing the passer, or a unnecessary roughness. And then you saw dudes trying to tackle the quarterback and stick their legs out so they wouldn't put all their weight on them, and then they're hurting their knees trying to not
Right.
hurt the quarterback. You don't need players like playing. That's how you get hurt in football, is when you're trying
Right.
not to get hurt, trying not to hurt someone else.
Yeah.
That's when you hurt yourself.
When
And
you're thinking too much, and that's what they're
yeah,
kind of making the game be, is like they have to think so
yeah,
much before they're doing these high caliber
yeah,
athletic plays, when you
yeah,
should just be, your body should just be naturally doing what it should be doing. And
yeah,
so,
and
for people who haven't played, obviously we played, you're not thinking about making a cut when you're running full speed, because you think like, oh, if I do this, they're going to call a flag. It's the same thing for the defensive players. Why should they have to, you know, think about it, especially for the guys who are heavier? These guys are still elite athletes, on the planet, but dudes who are 340, 350 having to make, they're going to get injured themselves. And it's not
yeah,
fair to them. So,
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, and I don't really have one that's longer, that deep, but um, I saw a good point on Twitter about the Hassan Reddick trade that Eagles fans were like kind of getting into, and it's like Eagles fans kind of have to make up their mind with how you want the team built, how you want the philosophy to be. You know, it's like we have 30-year-old corners, 31-year-old corners. We had old ass like D linemen, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, you know, and now Hassan Reddick is turning 30 years old, and we trade him away, and people are upset. It's like, are we trying to get younger or not? Are we upset that he's gone and he's some great player? Or are we, you know, like what's we got to decide on what, as Eagles fans, what we want the team philosophy to be. We can't just be like, oh, we should have kept him because of this, but he's also old, so why did Howie keep him? He always does this. He always keeps players he likes, and you know, like after they won the Super Bowl in 2017, they like kind of ran it back with the same players, and those same players were obviously not the same, and it hurt the team. So it's like you see him trying to change his ways and not hold on to dudes for too long, especially like an older player. We got a 3rd round pick that could turn into a 2nd round pick for someone who's turning 30 years old who wants a major contract extension. That's not nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if he was that, if the league wanted him that bad, he wouldn't have gotten traded at the end of March. It would have been a long time ago if he was that dominant and, you know, that good. But he's 30 years old. He wants a contract extension. I don't think Eagles fans should be upset that we're trying to get younger and better. And he had 2.5 sacks in the last 8 games of the season. So it's like he wasn't even he got to 10. He always gets 10 sacks, but like
he's going
not
crazy.
The player. Yeah, he was not the player he was at the end of the year, and I'm not going to be like that mad that he's gone. And I don't think Eagles fans should be either. If we're trying to actually get younger and better, let's do things differently. Let's trade away players instead of signing them after they're 30 and we see their decline on our team. Trade them to the Jets and let them decline over there. You know, like we don't need to have all that here. We have enough of it at the cornerback position, and I'm sick of it. So
every fan is a GM in their mind. So it's fun to see certain people underneath, you know, guys who have been doing it for decades, man. We're not talking about someone who was offered a professional job to do it, but people who have been doing it for like 2+ decades. And I disagree with you. And you know what? It's fine to have different opinions, but if your opinion is just because this is what I think, then you know, it's like it's ridiculous, man. But it's funny to see, and then, you know, those people kind of go away when their take is wrong, you know, during the season or after the season. So that's the funny part about it. But see what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got. That's all you got.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, please rate, review, subscribe. We're on all streaming platforms, YouTube. Follow us on socials. It's your boy CK, Brock _IV.
Brock _IV. Yes, sir.
And we'll catch you next week.
Yeah. Peace.